Hi, this is a meeting of the Lee Master Plan Committee, which has been publicly noticed and warned. And the purpose of the meeting is for the committee to hear for the first time in an organized way from the townspeople about where we should go with our master plan. And as you may know, we haven't had a master plan for over 2 decades. It's been in effect, but it hasn't been written. A new one hasn't been written for over 2 decades. And so we're going to be asking you before you leave today to give us some guidance on general directions. And this isn't necessarily the last meeting that we'll have with you. We think we will probably ask for another meeting later in the process as we get closer to the end and have specific recommendations. But thank you for coming. We appreciate your interest, and we look forward to your comments. I would ask if you have not signed in at some point this morning, please go to the table by the entrance and sign in. I am told we also have name tags, stick-on name tags available, so if you can do that, please do. The meeting today we hope will last about 2 hours. Roughly the first hour will be a series of presentations to you about what our master plan can do, how it's organized, and also another presentation regarding how the interim results from our online survey that we have had posted for some weeks. Now, this is pretty much the end of my role here as chairman. Sean Renier is going to be the master of ceremonies for this. He's done most of the thinking and organizing for this meeting, and so I'm going to ask Sean to accept the privilege of introducing the other committee members.
Thank you, Peter. Yeah, I think if you're filtering in, just come on in. There's still some more people out in the hallway, but basically, like Peter said, we're going to do 2 parts to the meeting. First is sort of just introduction and what is the master plan, and then we're going to get into the interactive sort of group exercise in the second half. There won't be like a traditional public comment, but you'll have plenty of chance to make input. So just introduction, Peter obviously is chairman of the Master Plan Committee and a member of the Planning Board. My name's Sean Renier. I'm the chairman of the Select Board currently. Here we have Diane Westbizer, who's a member of the community. David Buttery is right next to her, also another member of the community. And then further down past Peter, we have Kathy Hall, who a lot of you probably know, member of the community and the Youth Commission. Next to her, Mark Navin, who he's on the Conservation Commission. So we do have members sort of that we pulled from different committees throughout town. And then Nicholas Reska is a member of the Lee Middle and High School representative who has decided to come be a part of this, and we're very happy to have him. And then last on the end there is Betsy Strickler, who is a member of the school committee. So that's who's here on the dais. We do have, there's a few members that aren't able to make it. Susan Stone is a member of the Historical Commission. She's not here. I don't see Jack Tucker here. He's a resident.
He's recovering still from his surgery.
Okay, so he's not here. And then Barbara Paley's just a member at large, and Gail Ceresia also member at large. Who those 4 aren't here today. But we're just going to continue right on. I think BRPC is also here. We have 2 members of staff. Chris Skelly, who is going to give us a presentation in a few minutes, and CJ Haas is sort of out and about, so he'll be around to help us out. And these guys have been great to work with so far, and we're excited to do what we can for the master plan process and be involved with them. So I think that kind of wraps up the introduction. I was going to hand it off to Chris to kind of give his presentation of generally what is a master plan. And so, Chris, whenever you're ready, if you want to go ahead and take it over. Do you need a microphone? Do you want?
I'm gonna try to do it without a microphone because I'm not usually using microphones.
Yeah,
You want it on the
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, I can do it. I can do the microphone then. Yep. Doesn't matter which one.
This one has some reach if you want.
Do you have someone to advance your slide? He's got it.
All right, well, I will give my welcome as well today. So I'm Chris Skelly. I'm a planner with the Berkshire Regional Planning Commission. And the Regional Planning Commission is responsible for lots of things in Berkshire County, including putting together some master plans. So that's what we'll be talking about today. So I've had the wonderful opportunity to get to know Lee over the past 6 months and start to really learn this community. I just say it's a remarkable place. You have a really wonderful community here, whether it's your downtown, all your people, your neighborhoods, all your open spaces, natural resources. This is just an amazing place. I'm really enjoying the experiences I'm having here in Lee. I am going to do a little presentation today on what is a master plan. So I'm going to start off just by saying I was away last week. I was out of state. I went on an airplane. I did lots of driving around. I walked a lot. I visited neighborhoods. I visited downtowns. I visited villages. I did hiking. I was in the woods. I was on water, all kinds of places. I was at farms, just really experiencing a lot of different things. And I was doing what I always do when I visit places. And I was probably doing what you do when you visit places as well. You compare where you visit to where you live. And so I was doing that the whole time, thinking about, wow, this place is really amazing. What would it be like if my hometown had something like this that I'm experiencing right now? But I was also doing the other kinds of things, where I was going places and being stuck in traffic and not in walkable places, and in places that are really just kind of unpleasant places to be traveling or walking or riding a bike or whatever, and thinking about, wow, what would it be like if the place where I live didn't have that anymore, turned into something that looks like this right now? How unfortunate that would be. And that's kind of what we think about when we talk about a master plan, is really looking into the future and thinking about what are the things that make our place really special. How can we grow? How can we adapt? How can we change over time, but keep improving our quality of life all at the same time? So that's all about really kind of a lot about what a master plan is right there. It's a place where we prioritize where and when to direct our resources. So resources could mean money, right? Lots of things related to money and resources, and limited amounts of money. So where do we direct all of those funds? It could actually be capital in terms of our people as well, though. Think of your DPW, your Department of Public Works, and what do we prioritize your municipal staff to work on as well for projects? So it could also be just in terms of what years do we prioritize things? What things should we be doing this year? What things should we be doing 5 years from now, 10 years, 15, 20 years from now? Master plan tries to do all those kinds of things. Master plan is also a place where we all come together as a community to plan our future. You're all here today. This is awesome. I'm glad to see you all here. This is what a master plan is about, really listening to the community about what the future needs of the community are 15, 20 years out. Master plan is also a place where we put our vision into a plan of action. So we think about where we are right now, we put things into the master plan, and that tries to get us to the point where we want to be some point in the future. Okay, a few more things on the master plan here. Yeah, it's definitely a plan for the physical development of the town. You can think about land uses and zoning and where are we going to have businesses, where are we going to have residential neighborhoods, things like that. But it could also be things like a policy guide for the town. It could be things like how do we provide improved health? How do we improve the health of the residents of of the town of Lee? How do we have more services for our senior citizens? Things like that. So policies as well. And then definitely in terms of community infrastructure, resources, it can get all the way down to thinking things like of water and sewer and all those kinds of things as well. Master plan is most definitely developed with community feedback and goals in mind. So we're going to do that with two different processes over the coming months. We've got two going on right now. So you're here today as part of this forum, and we're looking forward to hearing your thoughts about what needs to be included in this master plan. And we've got a community survey. This is a survey you're going to hear more about in a few minutes, but this is a survey that is available online or handwritten, and it asks you a lot of questions about what you like about Lee, where you would like to see the future of Lee. So you'll be hearing more about the survey in a little bit. So that's basically how we try to get as much feedback as we can from you, the community. So yeah, it's a long-range plan. 15 to 20 years we try to look out. That can be a long time to try to think about what could change, what we need to plan for that far into the future. And so it might seem like, well, we're going to have to use a crystal ball for that, but not entirely. We have data. Data is really helpful in times like this. So I'll give you an example. It's really clear if you look at the 1990 census, the 2000 census, the 2010 census, and upcoming then the 2020 census as well. The population in Lee is aging. So that's a trend line that seems to be really continuing. As it is in Lee, it is across the state of Massachusetts as well. So using data like that to think about more senior citizens in the community is a really key part of a master plan, because you can think about, okay, what kinds of housing, what kinds of services, what kinds of infrastructure, even maybe what kind of open space recreational aspects do we need for more senior citizens in town. Maybe we need to have trails that are flatter, so they're not going up steep slopes. Maybe we need to have some more trails that are available for paved surfaces, things like that, as people age in town. So those are the kinds of ways we use data to try to really look into the future. Another part of the master plan is that even though you're really trying to look into the future, it wants to be a living document. It's best when you can think about a master plan that can change a little bit over time, that it can adapt to things that you weren't expecting to happen, like COVID. That obviously was something that no town was planning for, and you really have to have a document that can make some shifts there along the way. I'm going to mention a little bit of the limitations of a master plan, though, as well. It's got some limitations. It's not so good at very specific, single issue, specific kinds of things. Like if you were to say, the slide at the playground needs to be taller, or that curb cut at that intersection for walking across that intersection, it's the roots are damaging that curb cut, and I'm having a harder time walking across that. Those are way too specific for a master plan. A master plan is really a generalized document, because it has to be a generalized document. It's covering lots and lots of different things, and it's trying to look out 15 to 20 years. So that's kind of the limitation of a master plan, a comprehensive umbrella look at the community, but it can't get into a lot of the details of all the different things I'm going to cover that's in a master plan, which I'll show you in a minute here. Okay, master plan gets used by all these different organizations, individuals here, and maybe I didn't even think of everybody here, but that's basically, for the most part, who uses the master plan. And so you may think about how you would want to be, how you as a resident of Lee may want to find something in this master plan that would be specific to what you're wondering about the future. So we'll get to that in a few more slides as well. The state has a few requirements for master plans. They're pretty general, but the idea is that they have a master plan should have a statement of goals and policies, And then there's these things called elements, or we might call them chapters. It makes more sense to call them chapters, but you can think of there's a chapter on land use, there's one on housing, economic development, natural and cultural resources, open space, recreation, services and facilities, circulation, transportation, and things like that. And then a section on implementation, how all these recommendations in the master plan get done. So that's what's required in the state's version of the master plan. In like 2 more slides, I'm going to show you what we're recommending in the master plan for Lee. All right, as I mentioned a slide ago about the limitations of a master plan, well, here's all the benefits of a master plan, though, and there's lots of them. You can really be proactive about the future. Instead of trying to react to what's coming, you can really think proactively. This is what our data is showing. This is where things are looking like. We can be ready for that. And by being ready, it might actually mean that you can reduce some municipal expenses by trying to think about how projects get done most effectively. And you might even be able to think about how you can increase municipal revenue in terms of how your zoning and land use can provide new opportunities that bring in the most tax revenue, things like that. But doing so in a way that is best for the quality of life and protecting what's special about Lee as well. So that's an important one. They are increasing municipal revenue, but doing it very carefully at the same time. All right, protecting natural resources, definitely. There was a whole section on that. Best way of cost-effectively providing services and infrastructure. And then biggest one, just improving the quality of life for residents overall. So what we're thinking about for these chapters or elements of the Lee Master Plan are going to look like this: population and demographics, housing and residential patterns, public health and safety, natural resources, open space and recreation, land use and zoning, transportation and mobility, energy, sustainability and climate, historic resources and cultural programs, community services and facilities, economy and business, and municipal finances. So we're going to have a few more elements in our master plan than what's actually required in the state's version. So you are not the only community out there doing a master plan in the Berkshires. So Dalton, North Adams, Lenox, Great Barrington, Windsor have all recently done their own master plans. Monterey is doing a master plan right now. And you have done master plans in the past in Lee. The first one goes all the way back to 1958. So this is a fascinating read to look through on what was proposed for the town of Lee back in 1958. And the last one was done in 2000. So you are definitely due for another master plan at this point. All right, process of creating a new master plan for Lee. We've had the appointment of a steering committee, and you've met the members here. We're working right now on compiling a lot of data. We're looking at reviewing on some of those previous plans, whether it's the master plans or the other kinds of plans, open space and recreation plans, and other plans that have been done for Lee. We're meeting with a lot of the stakeholders, Department of Public Works, the library, senior center. Those are stakeholders, so people that really have a key part of one of those elements of the chapters of the master plan. Eventually, we're going to get to a draft plan for review, and then we'll have a final plan. And then after that, it's looking through that master plan. How do we implement every one of the recommendations that's in that master plan? Okay. And again, I just want to make that point, get that point across, how important it is that we have community input throughout this whole process. We're here at this forum today. Hopefully you're going to work on filling out the community survey, but there are lots of other opportunities for you to be involved in how you want to voice your concerns, your thoughts on anything that we've put into the master plan. So you can see right up till the end there, draft plan for review. Draft plan for review means that anyone can review the master plan and offer their comments on it. Okay, so the survey is this piece here, which can be filled out online or handwritten. And I'm going to hand it over to Betsy to talk a little bit more about the community survey, which is ongoing right now. And we actually already have some results in on how the survey is going. Betsy, come over that way. Sure, does that work? It's that one right there.
That one? Okay. Hi, everybody.
Oop.
I'm so excited. Look how many people came today. Thank you. I'm the half glass full girl, if you haven't figured that out yet. So Peter had asked me to look at how we put out a survey with the guidance, obviously, of Berkshire Regional Planning and the rest of the steering committee. So about 3.5 weeks ago or so, we launched a survey. It is on the Town of Lee website. If you haven't taken it yet, very much encourage that you do. The results as of last night, we had 327 people who started the survey, and 246 of us have completed the survey and provided input. So honestly, I think that's really phenomenal to get us started. We have about another month to go, so encourage your friends, family, everybody. But I thought I would show some very top level on some of the questions that were highlighted in the first portion of the survey. And it does, just like Chris outlined, it talks a little bit about land use and recreation and indoor and outdoor and housing and what types of organizations or businesses should we offer. So, very first question, what aspects of life in Lee are most important to you? I was curious, obviously. I was a little bit personally surprised that low crime rate was the number one thing that people chose. Interesting, right? There were a few other in those categories down at the bottom, and we can report out on all of those. At this point, I think there were about 6 or 7 people that put some things out there. But for the most part, they went through similar, privacy, people, nature, small town, all of that. So we also asked the question, if you have ever thought of leaving Lee, why? Is that something we can actually control and help plan for to retain people? Job opportunities. Ding, ding, ding. Perhaps that will come out in the master plan as one of our priorities. But again, housing, warmer climate. We cannot control the climate. I wish we could. I used to work at a ski resort. So looking at housing, though, warmer climate, not enough. I think where it says there were not enough, it's resources. I do not feel a sense of community. So there are some things that we can control and others that we cannot. And on the section regarding other, some people really wanted easy living for seniors. So again, that touches on housing. People who are saying, we're selling the family house, we want to stay in Lee, but there's nowhere to go, for example. The dump, obviously, some people saw that as a threat. Transportation has come up as one of the others, and then also taxes and real estate. So again, as more results come in, we'll see if those individual categories expand at all. So, what would you like to see expanded or added here? Farmers markets, right? Interesting. Restaurants, coffee shops, grocery stores, fitness centers, and healthcare facilities were sort of the top. Under the other category, things that came up more than once, recreation and entertainment spaces, dog park, fitness centers, innovation, so hub of innovation, and one person said such as the BIC, which is the Berkshire Innovation Center up in Pittsfield, because of our access to the Pike. A grocery store downtown, and a community gathering space, not necessarily fitness, but a place where people can go to gather. So those are just a handful of the things under the other category. And then we also asked family services, what would you like to see expanded or added? Medical care, child care, transportation, support for seniors. Under the other, some of the top hits, again, mental health, family health, medical care, community events, coordinated gatherings, community center and community sports, and daycare and after-school programming. So those were sort of the top hits for now. But as I said before, I would encourage everybody to please share that link with your friends and family. If anybody needs a hard copy, I don't know if we have paper copies here today. I'm looking in the back at CJ if we have any paper copies here today, but we can get them to people who don't have access to the technology. So we have it scheduled online until March 31st. 30 days has, yes, 30th. So yes, through the end of March is when we anticipate.
How many adult residents are there in the town today?
That is a good question. Where is Chris Britton? 5,200 adult residents.
So far, less than 10%.
So far, yep.
What do you consider to be a valid statistical response?
Honestly, if we got 10%, I would be thrilled. Yep. Yep, and I don't know if Chris or CJ want to weigh in on statistical numbers, but I think a 10% would be amazing, actually.
Typically 10 to 20% for a municipal survey.
Okay.
Response rate. I would love to have it much higher than that. In Monterey right now, their survey is open, and it's something like 35% of the population has responded at this point, and that's way above the norm.
So there are emails. There was a notice that went in everybody's water bill just recently in the last few weeks. You should have gotten something. Facebook, the Community Lee group on Facebook. There are hard copies in Town Hall and a couple of other places. They've been distributed throughout the library, the senior center. There was an article in the Berkshire Eagle last week, if anybody read that. So there were a couple of places, but we will continue. And again, if people want hard copies or have ideas and suggestions on how to get the word out about the survey, please let us know. That's what I got for you.
Thanks, Betsy.
Back to you.
Sean?
Yeah, great. We're a little ahead of schedule, so I don't need that. All right, well, I hope that kind of helps everybody stimulate some thought as far as, what is a master plan, thinking we're gonna, in a little bit, kind of break up into groups where you'll have a chance to give us your feedback. So those are just some of the things that we're thinking about and some of the data that we have presently. And so I think next I have a few questions for just the audience, just to get a sense of like who's in the room, and it's just going to be kind of poll questions, raise your hand, that sort of thing. But before I do that, somebody was up there and mentioned that we are doing another part of it's sort of separate than what we're doing, but there's a municipal vulnerability plan that is also in development, and there's a separate survey for that. So there's a couple different things going on, so we'd appreciate everybody's help just taking those surveys if you have a chance. But there's a meeting in March, yeah. What day in March? March 6th? 8th. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, so that's March 8th, and then there's a couple, so there's a survey associated with the municipal vulnerability plan as well. So just before we take a recess here, I just wanted to get a show of hands for how many people in this room have been living in Lee for more than 10 years? Just kind of, I don't know, getting like 70, 75% maybe. What about 20 or more years? maybe 50. Who has already taken the survey? Thank you. If you haven't, we'd welcome you to. So maybe. And then I just want to get a sense of how many people know at this point that Lee has transitioned to an open town meeting. Most people. Who's planning on coming in May for the open? I think it's May 11th. Thursday, May 11th. Okay. So I think at this point, unless, Peter, you want to add anything?
I do.
Yeah. So go ahead, and then we'll take a recess.
Okay. I'm going to ask you a couple of things before we take a break. We're going to be coming back after the break into 5 groups for discussion. And the groups are a little larger than we thought, but we arranged 5 moderators, and I think we can make it work. We had originally thought that 5 groups would meet out in the hall at 5 different stations, but in talking with CJ just now, he suggests, and I agree, that we should have 2 groups in here, one over here on the left side and one over here on the right side. The other 3 will be out in the hall. And they will be groups A, B, C, D, and E, strangely enough. And we will try to assign different portions of the auditorium to a discussion group before we break. But before we do that, that'll be the last thing before the break. But before we do that, I just want to tell you what to expect in this discussion group. We're going to be having 10 or a dozen or maybe 15 people in each group. We will have a moderator, and we will have a recorder who is equipped with a large pad and a marker. And the moderator's job will be to try to make sure that we keep moving, that we discuss the agenda, and the agenda is, the acronym for it is SWOT. It's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And ideally, your discussion will move through all 4 of those categories in about a half an hour, with everyone participating at least a little bit, and hopefully nobody insisting that the group spend too much time on one issue, and keeping in mind that this master plan is not a specific document about what we do with a particular piece of property or don't do, but it's a more generalized, sort of higher level conceptual document that we're looking for input on. So the next thing we'll do is CJ will wave his arms and assign each of you to a group by section of the auditorium. Then we'll take a 10 or 15 minute break, and my wife Valerie has very kindly gone over to the Big Y and bought cookies and brownies and cider for you all this morning, so try not to overwhelm her out there in the hallway. And then come back at about
10 of, yeah.
10 of 12.
Quarter of 10 of, yeah.
10, let's try 10 of, because I think there's a larger group that's going to
Yeah.
want to have cookies. And then you'll spend a half an hour in your groups, and then the last thing today will be everybody comes back in here, and each group will have a reporter who will briefly, for a minute or two, summarize what's been said in their group. CJ.
This isn't an exact science, so bear with me. Groups A and B, so A will be this side of the auditorium. Actually, I want to say this before I forget. You're probably all aware of this, but bathrooms, I don't know if that was mentioned before?
No, it
right
wasn't.
around the corner. So if anyone needs to use the bathroom, go out the auditorium to the right. So we're going to break into about groups of 16, so this isn't exact science, so I'm just going to walk around and eyeball it. A will be here, B will be here, C, D, E will be out in the hallway, and they'll be marked so you know where to go. So group A is going to be I'm going to create a line right here. This isn't perfect science, but eyeballing it. Basically, if you're from this side over, you'll be group A, you'll be right here. So all of you in this section right here, so let's say it's right here, your group B, you'll be over by this corner. The rest of you in the middle, and the first 2 rows back here, you'll be groups So there'll be some standing, some chairs out in the hallway. If you have an issue where you need a seat or you have a chair, just let me know. We'll make some adjustments. Like I said,
Yeah.
All right, CJ, you done? Are you done? All right, thank you. We're in recess until 10 minutes of 12.
It's about 20 of 1, and I guess, is this Group A over here, Peter? Do we have somebody who wants to report on what was talked about in the Group A? Why don't you come, yeah, why don't you come, grab a,
Alex was drafted by the group.
These are really big pieces of paper. One second. Bob, say something.
so we have 5 groups, so I think everybody gets about, 5 or 6 minutes to report on their strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats that they talked about with their group, and we have wonderful Alex here to start Group A. Here, you take the microphone, I'll hold it.
You'll be my flip chart? Sure. Hi, I'm Alex Hettinger. I live over on Silver Street. I've been here since, early 90s. Before we started specifically dividing topics into the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, we brought up a couple of concerns, and I want to make sure that we give time to that. And in particular, the dump. That there were several people in our group that pointed out how that huge elephant in the room was nowhere on the survey, and that we wish that that had been at least something that could have had more public input about. So I want to just bring that up before it'll come back later in a threat, but that was really where we started. We went back and went through some of the things that we felt were strengths of the town. We thought that actually being close to the Pike and having 3 highways through town was a strength. It meant that people can get to Lee easily. If you work somewhere else, you can get to Springfield or Albany or anywhere else that it's easy access both to and from Lee. We have low crime. That was something we brought up. Main Street and the small town charm. We love our little downtown and the shops and the restaurants and cafes and the other things that are right in downtown. We talked about the location again being centralized in Berkshire County, that we're not North County, we're not South County, we're kind of right in the middle, and that it's easily accessed from New York and Boston for tourism and other things. We talked about the culture that exists, that Lee is sort of in the middle of a lot of cultural opportunities, and our history. Where's my next one?
Dave has weaknesses.
Oh, weak.
Dave has weaknesses.
All right, where's my next one? Sorry about the mic there. Weaknesses, there's not a lot of job opportunities, and the ones that are here are sort of not great quality jobs. The aging population, it's going to show up again. That was a theme that sort of ties a couple of things together. Town facilities, that our police and fire are in non-optimal buildings. The fire department, that there's limited vehicles that we can actually purchase when we're upgrading because look at the short little doors. Industrial blight, Price Chopper, the mills, these are big abandoned building, not just a small one storefront here or there, but big places that have been abandoned. There's also a paper mill dump site that is apparently leaking now. So that's, that there's some toxic waste that we've got going on in town that is definitely a weakness. So those are our existing environmental dangers. Tech infrastructure is not the best, that there's some lapses in cell service. We're not sure if the electrical grid could handle it if we were to bring in new businesses. Can the existing handle growth and needs? Not enough youth activities out of school hours, especially for middle and high school kids. There's sports, but if it's not related to sports, there's not a lot for kids to do in town. You have to go somewhere else. Roads aren't very friendly to pedestrians and bikes. Like if you go down on 102, people are going, 50, 55 miles an hour. There's the wide shoulders now, but it still is not like you want to just go take a stroll down 102. And there's a lack of free or low cost and high quality childcare for kids under kindergarten age. What's next? Opportunities, right? Again, the Mass Pike exit on 7, we thought there was an opportunity to maybe not have trucks come through Lee. Probably not a decision that Lee can make on its own. We need our neighbors to buy into that one. We have opportunities to preserve our farms and other lands. We have opportunities for the Price Chopper and other vacant spaces and redevelop those, maybe convert those to unified municipal services, maybe even housing. We were talking about the Columbia Mill, is that right? Greylock Mill, that there's 26 acres and that you could put up housing there. We talked about natural resources, a new bike path that's supposed to come in maybe in 2025, starting behind the Big Y, going along the river, but then where does it go? There's a couple of big roadblocks like a river that you have to get across, or the railroad. We talked about opportunities for grants and funding for projects, like whether it's new sidewalks or lane painting for, making things more friendly to pedestrians. We started throwing out some ideas like we could have a movie theater or a bookstore or a swimming pool. The through line that I was talking about before related to the aging population, that an opportunity would be integrating the aging population in really powerful ways with young families or with young children or with high school students. And if somebody brought up, like a nursing home and daycare center in the same facility, and that those would be opportunities to just enrich the community, so it's not sort of choosing between, well, we have an aging population, what do we need to do for them? Or we'd like to have more young people, because the aging population will eventually not be there. How do we attract them? But how do we create systems where both ends of the spectrum and everyone in the middle can benefit? So, big question. And threats. Threats are the things from outside of our town, our organization, as opposed to the weaknesses, which are internal. So these are external environmental issues. That PCB dump, again, that it's missing from the survey, that we need to ensure there's going to be testing at the reservoir before and later, so we know what that difference will be. Dump trucks going through town with the PCBs. Big, huge issue. Threats are development that jeopardizes or encroaches on the beauty of our environment. A threat, we're not currently very attractive for young people, lack of jobs and activities, weakness threat. And another threat we talked about was a lack of coordinated efforts between the towns and our neighbors, whether it's master planning or schools that, I had noted when we looked at that slide, all these different towns are doing their little master plans. And how do those things integrate? How do we make sure we're not duplicating efforts or going against something somebody else is doing, and they're not sabotaging our efforts and we're not sabotaging their efforts, that we're looking at things from a higher level. How'd I do? Did I forget anything? Team A, is there anything else I left off? All right, Team B, you're up.
I'll go ahead and just take the reins for Team B, and that was very thorough. I think what I want to do is just kind of speed things up and hit on more of what wasn't just hit on that we discussed. Location was mentioned as a strength here. Main Street buildings, everything's kind of walkable. We have some shopping. The small town feel is a big strength. Our emergency services, restaurant diversity, and we have some youth support and some great resources, and also some incoming business industry, which we kind of discussed as strengths. And also just a big thing is our natural resources. So we have a lot of open space. We have a lake, state forest, water source. That's those sorts of things for strength. Weaknesses, big emphasis on the trucks and noise, Route 20, those sorts of things, traffic. That was a big thing that came up. Sorry. Yeah, 102 as well. We talked about the marijuana industry, as sort of a weakness to the town, also could be an opportunity, but a couple other things. Lacking in diversity of our population. We have an aging population that was mentioned, and then some vacant places, abandoned buildings, vacant retail stores, and those sorts of things. One thing we talked about was a little bit of being ignored by the state as sort of a small town mill feel, and just the Western Mass or Berkshire County kind of gets ignored when Western Mass gets talked about. Also, the PCB dump obviously came up. Zebra mussels in Laurel Lake as well, and some disrepair is in our infrastructure. And then moving on to what we discussed for opportunities. We have some opportunities for growth. The shared public safety building came up. Funding and CPA for sources for different projects around town. We discussed opportunities as well. The Eagle Mill development, opportunities for community center space adjacent to the school, open space and all that. Opportunities for more gathering spaces, cultural involvement and those sorts of things we discussed. And then hopefully having the opportunity to attract businesses. We also discussed the river walk and the bike trail and agricultural uses as well. Town employment came up at one point as an opportunity to sort of try to retain our staff if we can, because we do have turnover that happens. And then threats, obviously, the PCB dump, invasive species, plants and insects coming in, the cannabis industry being an impact as an eyesore and smell. We discussed the aging population again, and threats as far as like reviewing the process of planning and maintaining aesthetics when these developments come in to put more pressure on the developers to maintain the quality of the aesthetics. So we also had some flooding conversations and that sort of thing. So if we want to move on to Group C, yeah. I think if we have a volunteer from Group C to Mark.
I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I got all the information right here. Group C. Here's our stuff. Oh, thanks, Peter. With Group C, we also hit on most of the major points that everybody else did. So, in our strengths, I want to address we're law-abiding with low crime rate, and we have a relatively very effective form of government. Everything else pretty much has been addressed, so we're going to make it short and brief, and we're going to go over to our weaknesses. We have a long list of weaknesses. No, yeah, and well, of course, everybody. I addressed it by putting the dump up first. That's across the board. We don't want it, but a byproduct of the dump is the divisiveness that has occurred among the community. We also have a lack of apprentice programs in the trades for our youth, more opportunities for youth involvement, and more diversity. Let's see. mental health support. That's good for that. Our opportunities, right off the bat, the Eagle Mill. Use of our cannabis money. How about flexible zoning for downtown? And then 300 Stockbridge Road. Aggressive pursuit of pilot programming for students and youth. Ask the schools to bring back community service. And a development of a Parks and Recreation department. Threats are a big threat. Environmental. Be proactive with climate change. Of course, the dump and all its side effects. A weak infrastructure, meaning the roads and sidewalks, disrepair. And again, we're addressing the municipal buildings and that they are long in the tooth. Lack of employment, which diminishes the workforce, and need to maintain our parks. Some are in disrepair. And the invasive species again, and forest management.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
We have you were Group C?
Yes, we're C.
Group D, anybody want to hit on some? Here, I'll take the mic from you. Thanks.
My name is Marilyn Wyatt. I'll be really brief and just mention the things that no one else has mentioned. Thank you. I'd like to just start out by saying that our strengths list was our longest list. And so we started, I think, from a place of a very positive attitude about the town. Some of the things that we mentioned that haven't been mentioned was that we appreciate our emergency services that are located right here, the fire department, the police. We feel a very good library. We like the farmers market. We have good water and the natural environment, and most of all, we just felt that it's a strong community and great people in town who are engaged. As for the weaknesses that haven't been mentioned yet, there's the train that disrupts some neighborhoods because of its loudness, summer traffic. There was a feeling that Main Street could use more of a kind of concerted design plan for as it's going forward. That's also an opportunity, but right now there's empty streets on Main Street. There's the parking lots and things that are kind of a blight. There's lack of opportunities for youth in terms, particularly of like an innovation center or a center where youth can go that aren't involved in sports and want to kind of have hands-on education and opportunities to practice what they know. Cell service, internet, the zoning, sort of lack of density downtown with affordable housing and other kinds of housing as well, and lack of special attractions. Also lack of a community center. There's no place where we can all gather together except this spot right here. Opportunities. An interesting one that was mentioned was that there used to be a program where high school students were building houses and they would emerge with vocational skills, and that could be reinstated. We would like to see follow through with the development of Eagle Mill. It seems to be not moving along very quickly. More offerings from the library, including the makerspace. That was the sort of innovation center. Opportunities to develop fiber optics. It's a perfect location for that kind of thing. Let's see, create a town vision statement. We weren't sure if there is one, but if it's not, we all felt that is urgently needed so that we can all sort of come together on where we want the town to go. I know that the plan does that as well, but just a concise statement would be helpful. We saw an opportunity in having a mixed use downtown with zoning to allow more diversity of housing. We saw an opportunity in having the pollinator garden concept develop, as Lee is a pollinator situation, and in tandem with that, developing the farmers market so that it actually has produce, offers more produce, where we can go shopping. We need more farmers, right? And then the threats, I think, have all been probably mentioned. There was a concern about uncontrolled development. that would become a blight on the town if there's not, again, a plan as to the way that the commercial opportunities are exploited in a way that don't really impact negatively on residential neighborhoods. Loss of trees for power line protection, so, thank you.
And then there's one more group, if you have, Diane, you want to?
I'm not going to use our sheets because I think most of ours have already been highlighted. But for strengths, our group really did talk about having natural resources, the community trails along with walkability of downtown. In addition, weaknesses included transportation. Both public and private is a big issue, and that we also don't have a cultural center here in town. Let's see, what other one did I have here? You see, I don't have my readers. Oh, the other huge weakness that everyone agreed on is maintenance of our town trails. So we do have several small town forests with trails, and they're pretty neglected other than some private efforts. Thank you to the Blooms, who maintain one of the local ones. Opportunities is collaboration amongst town boards and the town people is extremely high in town, and also that we're close to a lot of cultural centers. So it is an opportunity, but then it got brought up that if you don't drive, how would you get to Tanglewood? Or how would you get to Jacob's Pillow that gets out at 10 at night? And then the only other large threat is the overall declining population in town. So we need more people for volunteers. We need more school children in seats. We're down to 640, and we graduate well less than 100 students. So that's a quick summary on top of all the other well-said points.
Thanks, Diane.
Thanks.
I want to thank Sean for all the hard work he did in setting this up for us. I want to thank the committee members for participating, moderating, recording, and all the work that they're going to do in the next few months. I do want to say that this is probably, almost certainly, in my view, not the last meeting of this kind. We will do at least one toward the end when we have something in writing for you to react to as a draft. And I don't know, maybe something in between. It depends on what the committee decides, but definitely one more in my view. Sean, any closing words?
No, I think you said it all. I think the last thing we wanted to just touch on before we let everybody go, and I appreciate everybody for coming out, is just kind of the master plan next steps. So I don't know if CJ or Chris, you want to speak to that at all, or I can kind of give a brief. Go ahead, Sean. Yeah. We're going so this is the first public forum, as Peter mentioned. We're going to take all this information. We got all the sheets, and thank you for all your input. If you haven't taken the surveys, take that. But we're going to gather up all the information. We're going to continue to meet and talk about what the community needs, what we can do to sort of implement and take all that feedback into consideration as we draft the master plan document.
And then it'll go to the planning board.
Right.
And we have at least one other member of the planning board here, maybe two. So the final vote will be the planning boards by state law, but it'll be, the planning board will be receiving a full document voted by this committee first. And the selectmen have no official role in this, but obviously the selectmen are going to have a lot of influence on what gets put in the plan. And you all will too, if you see somebody on the street that's on the committee and you want to talk about something, I volunteer them to listen to you. And thank you all again. Meeting is adjourned.
I was just coming.
Here, yeah, sorry, Kathy, I forgot about
I
it.
was just coming over in case there was anything.
Just before you leave, I want you to know that the Lee Youth Commission has planned to do some activities down at the Lee Athletic Field this week. Could the weather permitting. So Monday through Friday, we're going to open up the tennis courts and pickleball courts from 5:30 to 7. And on Wednesday, we're going to have a whole family group of things. We're going to have some games. We're still going to have the tennis and pickleball. The fire department, through Chief Brown, has been wonderful in securing us lights for the evening, and his crew was wonderful getting everything into the athletic field for us. On Wednesday, the Lee Youth Commission will be offering, free of charge, I can't think of what it is, hot chocolate and donuts. So hopefully you will get your families together, your children, your grandchildren, yourselves. It's not a drop-off. We expect parents to stay with their children, but I think we have something for everybody. So hope to see you during the week. Have fun. Thank you all for coming.